Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to another episode of News Dose, where I give you all of the latest gaming news. And I hope everybody enjoyed their holiday. Maybe you got to spend some time with your family and played some great games. But now we're back and we got some stuff to talk about today. The PS5 is back in the news because of a third-party company is developing some new faceplates, and interestingly enough, they're challenging Sony to sue them. Yeah, they're pretty confident right now, and I'll explain why here in just a moment. Also, I know a lot of people probably just got a brand new Nintendo Switch, and even though it's been out for a few years, it sounds like this is just the beginning of this amazing console. There's still a lot of life left in the Switch, so don't go anywhere and we'll talk all about that as well. With that said, let's get right into the news, starting off with CyberPunk 2077, because why not? It seems like we pretty much talk about CyberPunk on a daily basis by this point, due to all of the controversy that surrounds this particular game. It's just been one setback after another, and now things are boiling over. I've never seen a game release quite like this. It truly is a crazy situation. Yes, CD Projekt is now facing a lawsuit from their own investors. We talked a little bit about this last week because, frankly, what's happening is that investors feel like they've been lied to. I know a lot of gamers that bought CyberPunk for last generation consoles feel the exact same way, but people who invested into CD Projekt because of CyberPunk are losing money. Yeah, they're not happy at all, as expected, so they went ahead and made it official. They are suing CD Projekt. They're accusing them of making misleading statements about CyberPunk 2077, and they put out an unplayable game on Xbox and PlayStation systems due to an enormous amount of bugs. As a result, PlayStation ended up delisting CyberPunk from the PlayStation Store, and once again this majorly affected investors. And honestly, if you've been following the story from day one, they might have a good case here. The thing that I keep looking at is the fact that CD Projekt did not show console footage ahead of release, and they also had some weird stipulations to where reviewers could not show their own gameplay. That does sound a little fishy, and it sounds like they were trying to hide something. That's just speculation, of course, but this is such an oversight on CD Projekt's management, and that's the most unfortunate part about this. CyberPunk is actually a good game without the bugs, and if they just delayed it, it might have been a Game of the Year candidate in 2021. But instead they decided to rush it out to the market, and now their reputation has taken a huge hit, and now they're facing a lawsuit because of all of this. It is what it is, I guess, but hopefully those patches coming in January and February fixes most of its issues. Next up, Hollow Knight Silksong is making an appearance rather soon. I know fans, including myself, have been starving for some more information about Silksong. Of course, Hollow Knight is one of the best Metroidvania games ever made, so there's some high expectations with this upcoming game, but we really haven't heard much about it since early 2019. And that's the thing, it seems like with every single Nintendo Direct, there's always that hope that it's going to pop up. Unfortunately, it hasn't, but it looks like Edge will have you covered. The new Edge cover was revealed to be Hollow Knight Silksong, and it will have plenty of new details. Yeah, Hollow Knight fans are going to need to pay attention to this one because the former Edge editor revealed that Team Cherry presented a new demo, new screenshots, and they did hours worth of interviews. So I would expect a significant amount of new information here. The question on everybody's mind, though, is when are we going to be able to play it ourselves? I'm not sure if they'll announce that here, but I'm really hoping they at least give us a launch window. I do believe it will release before the end of 2021, and because they did apparently show a new demo, I'm hoping we hear about that rather soon. Also, here's something to be excited about. According to a new job listing, Respawn Entertainment is working on a brand new IP. Now, why exactly is that so exciting? Well, if you look at the games that they've made, they have quickly become one of the best developers in the entire industry. They've worked on Titanfall 1 and 2. Both of those are great first-person shooters with fun multiplayer, and surprisingly with the sequel, it's got a fantastic single-player campaign as well. And that's something worth noting. They're one of the few developers that are masters of both multiplayer and single-player, and I think that shows with Apex Legends being a massive multiplayer hit, and then Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order being another great single-player experience. They also just released the VR Medal of Honor Above and Beyond. So they work on a wide variety of content, and pretty much everything that they work on turns out to be really good. On the other side of things, I do know that this may come as a disappointment for those wanting Titanfall 3. Don't worry about that too much though, because this brand new IP that they're working on sounds like it's going to be a smaller game. There were two specific things that stood out to me with this job listing. One was that it will be developed by a small team, so Respawn very well could still be working on Titanfall 3 with an entirely different team. The other thing that stood out to me though was that they're looking to pioneer new practical technologies to enable adventuring forever. That immediately makes me think of a games as a service type game or procedurally generated content. I'm really not entirely sure what it means, but yes, they are working on a new IP, and I do find that to be very exciting. Moving on, let's talk about Nintendo because I know a lot of people probably just got their brand new Nintendo Switch. It's been a Nintendo type of year where they have been selling an insane amount of Switches at a record-breaking pace. And of course, during the holidays, that's a popular gift. If you tried getting on the Nintendo eShop during Christmas, it was very evident a lot of people were trying to jump on at the same time. Yeah, it was down. With that said, in a recent interview with Polygon, Nintendo boss Doug Bowser had something very interesting to say. He says that he believes the Nintendo Switch is just at the midpoint of the generation. That means it's very likely we're not going to see a new Nintendo platform until at least 2024 or maybe even 2025. I see that as a great thing. As we're seeing this year, there are still a ton of people buying into the Switch. I think this is really just the beginning for the Switch, and it does have a lot of life left in it. Now, hopefully it will get some new revisions such as the Switch Pro with some better speakers and an upgrade on resolution, but other than that, this is an amazing console. I've said it several times on this channel, but it's quickly become one of my favorite Nintendo devices ever made, and coming from me, that's saying a lot. I'm a big fan of the Nintendo 64, GameCube, and the Game Boy Advance, but the Switch is right there, and again, we're only at the midpoint right now. I mean, if you look at some of the games that they've released in a very short period of time, it's incredible. You have Mario Odyssey, Smash Bros. Ultimate, Breath of the Wild, Pokemon X and Y, Fire Emblem Three Houses, Luigi's Mansion, Animal Crossing New Horizons, and just so many more. And I think the next 4 to 5 years is going to be just as good, if not even better for the Switch. We still have Metroid Prime 4 to look forward to, there's Bayonetta 3, probably another mainline Pokemon game, and I'm positive that Nintendo will have plenty of surprises for us along the way. I can't say this enough, but Nintendo has absolutely knocked it out of the park with the Switch, and I'm happy that they're already saying it's got a lot of life left in it. I'm kind of curious to see how the Switch sells lifetime though. I think it's pretty much a given by this point that it will ultimately outsell the Wii, but I want to see by how much. I think it can pass the PS4 in lifetime sales too. I guess we'll see, but I'll ask you, what do you want to see from the Nintendo Switch over its second half of its life? Nintendo has a lot of IP that they could tap into. Maybe some Kid Icarus. I loved Kid Icarus on the 3DS, and I keep hoping they do something with that on the Switch, but I mean, you know, it's Nintendo, it's hard to tell. We haven't seen a new Donkey Kong in a while. Mario and Luigi has kind of disappeared. Mother is an obvious choice that Nintendo just continues to ignore. And yeah, who knows what they have in store. What I do know though is that because Nintendo for the first time in decades is able to focus on one device instead of having a handheld and then a home console on top of that, they can really go all out with the Switch and its hybrid design. And so far, it shows. Let's talk about PlayStation though, because a few things happened over the weekend that I think's worth talking about. Last week we talked about the PS5 Dualsense controller, as several fans are now reporting that their adaptive triggers are breaking. I'm really hoping that's not a widespread problem because this is an awesome controller in large part because of all the new technology that's inside this thing. I would go so far as to say it's going to be the next evolution in controllers, and based off of Phil Spencer's recent comments, it would not shock me at all if Xbox gets a mid-generation refresh to include some of this new technology. While the Video Game Chronicles seems to agree, they've been giving out several awards over the last week as we head into the New Year's, and the PS5 DualSense controller won the Innovation of the Year award. I really could not agree with that anymore. I've played several PS5 games so far, and the DualSense really does stand out as being a true next-generation feature. Maybe not so much in most games, as I barely notice it in games like Demon's Souls, but if you've played Astro's Playroom, it's shocking as to how good it feels if implemented right. I think developers will look at that game and start to do more with it in the future. I've let some other people test it out on Astro's Playroom, and it's kind of got that VR reaction to it, where it really does surprise people. Nonetheless, I know the technology hasn't been perfected yet, and developers do need to do more with it, but I do think it's very impressive, and big congrats to Sony on winning the Innovation of the Year award. PlayStation might not be overly happy right now though, because a third-party company, Dbrand, is calling Sony out for the PS5 faceplates. So check this out. A company by the name of Dbrand has went ahead and decided that they're going to make some PS5 faceplates, and fans are really wanting this to happen. Not everybody likes the default white faceplates that the console comes with, and they are easily swappable as shown by Sony themselves. It's a genius design on Sony's part until they decided to shut all that down by threatening legal action over PS5 faceplates. That was a controversial decision, but if you remember back in late October and early November, one company did try to do this, and Sony was not having it. They shut down a website by the name of PlateStation, which kind of gave the impression that they're not going to allow third-party companies to sell PS5 faceplates. Well, Dbrand seems very confident that they can, so they announced that they will be manufacturing and selling their own. They even went so far as to challenge PlayStation by saying, "Sue us, Sony." Yeah, that's either very aggressive marketing or they know they're in the right. What I think is happening, and this has been alluded to before, but I think the problem with PlateStation and the reason Sony shut them down is that they were too similar in branding. There wasn't many differences with the faceplates, and by naming it PlateStation, it could create confusion. If you look at the picture of Dbrand's faceplates though, it does seem to have a slightly different design as to the original PS5. So maybe it doesn't violate any kind of copyright infringement. Again, Dbrand seems very confident about this, and they're a reputable company from my understanding, so we'll see how all this works out. Hopefully it does, because we could end up seeing some really cool faceplates come from third parties if we see that companies can manufacture their own. We could get some game design ones like God of War, or maybe a PlayStation 1 themed faceplate. Now that would be really cool. And again, not everybody is a fan of the original design of the PS5. Regardless, you can check out Dbrand's website if you want to order the matte black version in the future when it releases sometime in 2021. Anyways, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.